Maybe we can expand on why it's seen as a good thing that the OLCC regulates recreational marijuana when presumably they don't have any experience with cannabis. And I'd be particularly interested on the consumption side of it as far as monitoring.
Yeah, the OLCC, you know, they have experience with alcohol, they have experience with licensing rules, regulations, audits, sting operations, collecting taxation, and so they have experience dealing with, you know, a relatively similar product. So as all the government agencies go, they just happen to be the best one for this program. The Oregon Health Authority, with some experience dealing with medical cannabis, really made it clear that they only wanted to stick with medical cannabis and didn't want to move into adult use over 21. So we really didn't want to have an antagonistic relationship with a government agency that didn't really want the regulations. Starting a brand new regulation, unfortunately, there are startup costs associated with that. And so when you start off with the state saying this brand new agency is going to cost $22 million a year, for whether that's true or not, that really puts you in a tough position to win the election. So the OLCC, you know, has experience with these type of rules and regulations, and they are definitely looking to be educated from patients, consumers, people in the industry, how Washington and Colorado has gone, and they're definitely looking to have, you know, work groups around the various issues to educate themselves. And that's one of the reasons why we give the OLCC a full year to develop the rules and regulations, so they have time to learn about cannabis, bring in experts, and pass you know, common sense rules and regulations.
Yeah, that's one of the things that was impressive for me is ensuring that you have an agency that actually has some expertise in regulations of substances. This is, from my perspective, what New Approach Oregon was able to do is come together with an existing facility, so you would not find us needing to actually start from ground zero. As Anthony says, one of the things that is very important to myself and many people that serve in the legislature is that we do away with the black market or the underground market. And by having the taxing structure that they have placed in order to move forward, actually will give us that best opportunity to undercut. We've seen historically, when you look at what happened with alcohol when it was prohibited and when it came back, you can actually have the impact of undoing the cartel type of philosophies by actually having a well-regulated industry. I also believe that the OLCC, knowing from my discussions from the executive director, they're not waiting until this passes. They're already there, as Anthony says, working and watching and seeing from those who are actually implementing in Colorado, as well as what's happening now in Washington, to be ready for what is going to come forward. And I guess not saving grace, but I think the part of having a deep breath and ensuring that we move forward in a positive light is that there is a 1-year incubation to actually have it up and running. But clearly I can tell you right now that Steve Marks, who is the executive director of OLCC, has been on the phone with me, and he has made it very clear that he's working with the Department of Ag as well as the Oregon Health Authority, because of the measure itself deals not only with the recreational part, but also brings forward some of the stuff I've worked on in industrial hemp, and also where you have the medical part, and I think we'll get into some other questions that will go into greater detail, why it's so important that this measure that New Approach Oregon has put forward actually calls out that we're going to maintain a separate system for the medical, and it's not going to be blended into the retail, such as what has been discussed at Washington State.
So let's address that. What will happen to the Oregon medical marijuana program if this passes? And if OMMP continues, will there be separate dispensaries for medical and recreational purposes?
Well, I guess starting off from where we're at, yes, I expect that there will, OMMP is going to stay in place. The new approach measure, IP 53, calls that out and distinctly says it will stand alone. The important part of that is because I think the needs are very important for all of us to realize as to exactly what that program was set up for and what it addresses. I was fortunate to be able to help move forward after the measure passed back in 1998. We had about 10 years that ran and actually showed how the medical marijuana program was working, how efficient it was, and how it was actually helping patients to actually get the relief they want. Knowing that, and knowing that the citizens actually passed that measure, which was, if I'm not mistaken, was ballot measure 67 back in 1998. What we basically have seen is that it has actually worked to the point of where we wanted to give the patients in Oregon more control, more assurance, and protection. So in 2009, I was able to get my colleagues to actually support changing the scheduling of marijuana from a Schedule 1, which is identified as having no medicinal purposes, to a Schedule 2. And so we are one of them. We are the only state that I know that has actually taken the step to actually recognize what the people of this state have said, that we believe it doesn't have medicinal purposes and use, and it should be clarified and classified to be a Schedule II drug. And so that is something that for me is very important, and clearly, as long as the federal government is, let's say, behind in coming up where the people of this state and 20 other states in the District of Columbia are at, as it pertains to medical marijuana, until they make the change from a Schedule I to a Schedule II, we have to do everything we can to protect our patients in this state.
We've addressed this a little bit. Maybe you could expand on what impact this legalization might have on the black market.
Well, my goal is to put it out of business. I mean, the reality is we have an opportunity to have it, an industry become more legitimate and out from underneath the rocks and from behind closed doors and alleyways and everything else, to the point of where you can actually have a viable industry that's actually going to be producing revenue that can go into the state general fund to pay for education, human resource issues, health and wellness, as well as for public safety needs. And so I do, in fact, think that you're going to see let's say, the turning away and the drying up of the black market as it stands today, and that you will, in fact, and many of the people I represent in the district I represent are looking forward of coming out and being more public and being able to actually be accountable for what they do and not be behind the scenes and being concerned as to who might be knocking on the doors, be it law enforcement or the bad guys trying to get in and take what they're doing right now. And this is something that spans beyond urban areas. I represent a lot of rural areas of Douglas and Lane counties, and I can tell you that there are a lot of people who have spoken to me about this topic, and they think that this is something that's right for the state, and it will make us all better for it, and we'll have the accountability, and the responsibilities will be in place, and then we actually will see revenue coming forward that will help us as a state.